This is Tech number 913960 with a video in relation to the game Elite Dangerous Horizons. The area of focus is going to be radar, foundations, and the utilization of radar in combat. Whenever getting into intricate games like this, when I do create videos, I do incorporate the information that I believe is foundational, even if it's going to cause the video to bleed out a little long. Any kind of additional information that I believe needs to be incorporated would be done so via texting, as well as any corrections that need to be made using templates also. Let's go ahead and address the issue. First, let's take a look at our cockpit view. Within the entire cockpit here, a so-called free camera aspect, and then we'll go with actually a true frontal view that's utilized in gameplay. Stand by. Okay, here it is. Let's start with this vantage point of the radar and give some information in relation to it. Obviously, we are always at the pivot point of the radar, directly dead center. Our pointing direction is always up to the top of the screen and the top of the viewpoint in relation to it, if you want to look at it as so-called 12 o'clock position or a 360 0-degree angle position. And within the bed of the radar, we have several rings that could be utilized for distance relativity in regards to targeting. In this case right here, we also have a target that's available, a neutral target within the so-called bed of the radar as well. Offset from that, before jumping into that, we also have a cone-shaped figure that actually designates our field of view, even though we do have a slightly wider range, which will be shown in relation to it. And then back over to the so-called target that's within our radar sensitivity range and could actually be picked up. We have multiple indicators surrounding that aspect. One is the square box of the so-called craft. In this case, it is neutral. And then we have a red dot that appears on the bed of the radar, which I call the fall point of the craft. And then we have a line indicator that represents its relativity in space offset from our position. In this case, it's actually below me. Okay, so I want to show that as well. Now, on the base of the radar, we also have a gauge that we could increase the sensitivity of the radar and decrease it. To far left hand aspect is the widest range of the radar, which I definitely like. Whereas if it was far all the way over to the right, it would actually tighten the radar up. And I believe for relativity, as in regards to distance is concerned, I like to keep it to the far left expansion in regards to radar sensitivity. With that information in place, we'll jump into the cockpit frontal view and continue from there. Okay, focusing our attention on the radar lower center distance of the screen. I treat the radar and I look at the radar in a so-called clock face or compass reading, in which at top dead center is going to be 12 o'clock 0360. At 3 o'clock it's going to be my 90 degrees, at 6 o'clock it's going to be 180 degrees, and at 9 o'clock it's going to be 270 degrees. I also try to look at it as if I draw a line through 270, so-called 9 o'clock, across to so-called 93 o'clock position, splicing it in half right there, that anything that would be in the regions that would bleed more towards 12 o'clock 0360 to be more in the front attack region, and anything that would be more towards 6 o'clock 180 would be more in the rear targeting position and aspect. Of course, as close to 270, 90, 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock is going to be on the sides, of course. Okay. Within the bed of the radar, we have several rings that we could utilize for distance relativity. The pivot point is always us in the middle. We're always pointing at the so-called 12 o'clock 0360. And down on the base of the radar, we have the sensitivity gauge. I am using a PS system PlayStation and a DualShock controller. In order to adjust that sensitivity, I would hold the X button down, bringing up this HUD right here. I don't even really have to hold it. And I could use L1, R1 to change the sensor zoom, okay, in regards to my radar. I do not like it offset to the so-called increased zoom, because I I like to try, and I believe it is good to build a relative scale on it, and I want it the widest degree. The tighter I can't use it. I don't like it. So, and I will show foundations, and that's what this video is on, understanding critical things that we could use, especially during combat with the radar. Okay, releasing that. Let's go to the indicators that appear with targets that are within the range of our radar, in which we do have a target there, which is a craft. I'm using a friendly craft, so-called Elite Commander Tanya Blaine, to assist me on this. And addressing that issue. What happens is the square box is the target indicator. It's a point in space, okay? It's fixed point, it's true area, true solid indicator. It is a yellow box, it is a neutral target. If it was an enemy, it would be in red. The next thing we could utilize that indicator to relate to is the fact that it is square, not triangle type form. Being the fact that it's representing the situation that it does not have hard points deployed, okay? Being that it's square. If it was more of a triangle shape, it would show that hard points are actually deployed on that craft right there. The next thing is that if it's, once you do, if it was an enemy aggressive towards you, it would be in red. I believe friendly or in green, neutral is yellow. And we already discussed the fact that it does not have hard points deployed at the present time. The next indicator is going to be the red dot that appears on the bed of the radar. I call that the fall point, okay? Meaning that when that craft is brought into my equator line on the same plane that my craft is on, it will fall down on the radar right at that location right there. So I call it the fall point. And the line between the fall point and the true enemy, the indicator of the target, it's not an enemy yet, and it won't be in this video, is representing its relativity in space, meaning that is actually the line is forming from the fall point down to the target indicator, so it is below me, and we would use that to our advantage as well. Okay, so I wanted to mention that. The next thing is, when I target the craft, right, like that, we would get additional information that appears automatically. The first thing is the information on the craft, which is in the far left-hand corner, Diamondback Explorer. It's Elite Commander Tanya Blaine, Lawless Federation. And right beside that, we have the holographic image of the target. Okay, the pointing direction could be seen by the holographic image. It is a shielded craft, and the hull integrity is at 100%. Now, what happens is, when you do target a craft, in this case we're talking just about crafts here, the brackets on the radar will actually appear around the targeted craft. Should there be multiple crafts within, enemies as well, and things like that, whichever one is targeted will have the brackets around it. The next thing is, if it is an enemy, it will be red. Hard points, as we already mentioned, if they're deployed, the indicator will be square, a triangle instead of square. And if it's an enemy, in red, and they are firing at you, that will be flashing. Okay, so it is smart to understand which enemy to target. That would be the so-called highest threat, which you could have a quick way of doing that, and hopefully the game is true to heart and will target the most hostile craft when in fact you do initiate that. Okay, so I wanted to mention that as well. That's pretty much good enough about the target and the information as far as indicators related to the target. Okay, so we discussed the true indicator of the target, which is the square box frame, or cone-shaped frame. We discussed the fall point, which is the red dot that appears on the bed of the radar, and the line configuration, which separates the two, indicating its relativity, whether it be above me, below me, and obviously if it was perfectly on the equator line, there would be no line, and we would just have the indicator, and we would deal with that as well. Let's look a little bit more in relation to targeting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in this case I believe, pitch down, to bring the target into view. There's the target into view. And what happens is, now, once you target a craft, indicators will appear around the craft. In this case right here, we are in a sideways fashion, so we get three primary indicators that surround the craft, and they almost appear like triangle form pointing direction as well. The indicator that appears fully colored in, all right, is actually where the nose of the craft is pointing towards. The craft will always be directly dead center, so if you're at a far degree offset from the craft, always be aware that perfectly in between that configuration is where the craft actually lies for targeting. If in fact the craft was on the same plane as us as far as approaching us or going directly away from us, those indicators will still be true to heart, but you'll only see it more like two reverse parentheses around it in the aspect of it. And obviously, again, the target will be directly dead center of those so-called brackets, and you have to understand that. The next thing is when you do target a craft, especially an enemy, of course, and I think only an enemy, until it becomes an enemy or whatever. Like in this case, I can't do it with this friendly target in this so-called training session here. It won't allow it. But more commonly, you would be able to target anything because you could attack it even if it's friendly if you want. But what happens is you would go to your external panel, you would go to targeting, and you would activate a sub-targeting area on the craft. That'll give you an additional indicator that appears dead center between these markers right here, and that's a great assisting tool for primarily. I break it up in two fashions. One is distance targeting, and if I'm using it for distance targeting, I'm not really concerned about the component primarily, destroying the component. I want to use it more to get a targeting that I could be using relative to distance locking. When I do choose that, I choose a target or a component on the craft that relates more towards the nose of the craft and synergistic of the craft. And the reason being is that it allows and compensates slightly for weapon fallout, so I definitely want to do that. If I'm using type specific, then I'm actually out to destroy that actual component on it, such as life support or things to that effect as well. So I wanted to mention that also. I believe I covered as much as I want to in regards to the actual target and the information that was already covered. And now we want to go into the foundations of how do we use the radar as far as relativity of the target in general, especially for the utilization in combat scenarios. So let's go ahead, let me get some adjustments made here, and we'll continue. Okay, since we got the foundations, general foundations in play, we can go ahead and try to figure out the best way that we could use the radar during combat scenarios. And what happens is the first thing I would like to look at is understanding the fact of the utilization of boost. And we'll go ahead and continue from there. Let's jump out to a frontal view. Okay, here it is. Let's get a foundation in regards to boost. And I position myself generally at 2.00 kilometers away from Tanya Blaine here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to boost directly towards the target. What happens is using no speed involved already initiated, I will throw more to engines for maneuverability, and hopefully that won't affect the scenario that I believe is true, meaning that no matter what PIP distribution I actually apply, or even the but definitely if I have additional speed involved when I do come out of the boost, I just want to show a foundation in regards to boost in general. It's that when you commonly boost the craft, you will travel 2.00 kilometers on the boost. Now, what happens is you can actually affect the boost by doing certain procedures, such as thrusting, and maneuvering is going to take away from the relative distance of the boost. Let alone that, you could do certain techniques such as deploying landing gear, which is going to affect boost as well, as far as distance via the boost in its own. So we'll go ahead and we'll boost the craft here and begin forward velocity towards the target. And you can see that when the boost does depreciate, we will come up very close to the target right here, showing that we had so-called a almost 2.00 kilometer distance of travel via the one boost application. So I wanted to show that. Let's continue on with more information that we could use relative to targeting in combat and the utilization of radar in its own. Okay, the next critical foundation in regards to using radar in combat is understanding the relativity as far as distance and positioning. Using the rings of the radar is our foundation, in which the craft directly ahead is actually sitting at 50 meters. You could also notice that since we are on a point in direction towards one another, and would be if the craft was facing away from me, that the icons now appear to be so-called reverse parentheses. There are 3 icons too, because if I use, like, say, deceleration, vertical thrusting descending, you could see the 3rd icon is right there, and it is colored in. But when you do get on the same plane, it almost seems like reverse brackets and only 2. The craft will always be dead center, and that's critical to understand, especially at distance. Now in this case right here, this is the visual representation of a craft within 50 meters. But more importantly than that is the fact that when I drop and utilize pitch to bring this craft into so-called off the equator line, we will get our line configuration and our fall point. So in this case right here, I'm going to start by pitching down, and I'm going to drag the fall point right across the top of my indicator, right there in the center. Now you see the line that appears between the true enemy icon, which is the box, and the fall point, which is directly on top of me at the pivot point. That line represents 50 meters. It's really important to understand that. It really is, and we'll show that during true action in regards to the scenario at hand. Now that's the general area, and when you are in combat, the enemy prefers and tries to more commonly take the high trajectory for attack. If I had to weigh it out on a percentage, I would say 90% of the time the enemy's going to be trying to attack from above you, and their indicator will appear above you and a line configuration relating to it in that aspect. But it's really important to understand that foundation in regards to that line right there, representing that the craft is above me, but the fall point would actually truly be 50 meters out when it does drop into the equator. So when I bring that craft back into the equator again by vertically climbing upwards, you can see that the fall point is actually going to fall at 50 meters when that craft becomes on the equator line. Now when I bring it down below, the line seems to extend a little bit further, to tell you the truth. So here it is, I'm dragging it down to the fall point on my pivot, and it's slightly a little bit longer, not too much, but it's super critical to be aware of that. It really is. When you are dealing with crafts that are actually out of your field of view and within the radar range, of course, but that line configuration, pay attention to it, okay? That represents 50 meters out. Let's go ahead and set a different position, but I could also show this in a different fashion as well. Let's go ahead and change to a different visualization. As you can see here in the visual representation within the so-called internal cockpit here, that the craft, which is visible on the screen as well, is actually seating on the first ring of the radar bed. Let's go ahead and make an adjustment here. Stand by. Okay, next critical foundation is when the craft is actually on the second ring of our radar. Even though there appears to be a so-called translucent ring involved between the two that are focused on, what happens is that's actually just holding the radar up to my console. So in this case right here, at 200 meters out is when we hit the second ring of the radar, okay? And it's critical to know that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to actually throw the craft out of the line of sight, offset if you want to look at it that way, and commonly, like I said, the first area is when the craft is above us. So as I start to pitch downwards, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the fall point to appear right on my indicator, which is the pivot point. And it is super critical to understand the foundations of that line that appears, representing the fact that when I do try to put that target back into the bed of the radar, that they are going to fall at 200 meters out. Now you have to understand, I understand that during momentum and things to that effect as well, but you have to use it as a relative point of reference in regards to distance via anything that we could use within our radar that's going to help us in combat. And there is no doubt that this would help us to understand that when the line is this long, it represents a general fall point that would be at a 200-meter area. Okay. Now, if I reverse the scenario, I pivot up, of course, to get the target back into view, swing down and look at the opposite scenario. When they are below us, the line appears to be slightly longer. Okay. But like I said, you must get a feel of that line foundation and relative distance aspect in regards to utilizing your radar when enemies are outside the field of view. Okay. When I swing back up and pivot back up, get them back across again, we're going to go ahead and look at it. We're going to look at 3 primary points. Okay, we've already covered the first ring of the radar, which was 50 meters out, and now we're on the second ring of the radar, which is 200 meters out, and it is super critical to understand the foundations of our line representation as far as distance relativity. Okay. Now, when I do get them back, her in this case, into the equator line, okay, general equator line here, like right around there. Let's take an internal cockpit look at that as well. Now, as you can see on the radar, the craft is actually sitting on the second ring. You can actually see it through the main screen as well. And that just is verifying the point that it is actually its fall point is in fact on the second ring of our radar for relativity. Let's go ahead and continue with the final point. Stand by. Okay, and the last point is generally at the outer ring of the radar. Okay, there are several rings in between, but I do want to give I want to simplify it as best as I possibly could in relation to it, and I do believe that at 500 meters, at the fullest sensor zoom of my radar, that they actually are seated at the outer ring of the radar. Of course, if I continued further back, it would appear that they're at the outer ring, but they penetrate the outer ring of the radar truly at 500 meters. So let's go ahead and get a visual representation. Of course, first I'm going to place the craft above me because that is the common attack point. So I didn't mean to descend vertical thrusting there, but I'm still on a good equator line here. So I'll go ahead and I'll pitch downwards. When I do that, I'm going to drag the fall point to my indicator in the pivot point, and that is the line representing generally 500 meters out. Okay, generally 500 meters out from my location. And as I bring them back into the field of view right there and swing around as they cross over the plane to a position actually below me, and then I lock it generally on my pivot point, you can see how far they fall down. More concentration for myself, I believe, is more in relation to their appearance when they are above me. So let me go ahead and swing them back. What I'm going to do, losing my trajectory here, great. Okay, sorry, losing my trajectory here. We'll go ahead and we'll swing them back. I want them more above me, that's my more relative point. And really pay attention to that line, okay? That line is super critical to understand that, okay? And if you can get a feeling of that, you can get a general relativity in regards to the distance when you actually cause that craft to fall into the bed of the radar. Now, when it comes to being placed into the bed of the radar, which is super critical, you have to understand that you could do that in 2 fashions. But before we do that, I want to show the visualization in the internal cockpit view. So in order to do that, I have to get that enemy back onto the equator line. It's not an enemy, really, it's a friend. And let's go ahead and look at the internal visualization on the radar. And as you can see on the internal radar via inside the cockpit, that the craft is seated on the outer ring of the radar right there at 500 meters away. Let's continue on. Okay, now, as was being explained, but I wanted to show that visual image in the internal cockpit, is we have the ability when, in fact, doing maneuvers within combat to actually, our primary objective is to get that target into our field of view. I'm glad I mentioned that because I got to look at that as well. One of them obviously is pitching up and down, so in this case we would pitch up and try to get that craft to fall into the bed of our radar and hit the fall point. Now, another way of doing it is actually by rolling, okay? Rolling. Two primary ways, pitching and rolling. So if I roll, in this case I'll roll to the left, I am actually going to throw the craft over to the right and throw it into the bed of the radar on the right. It's always opposite. And there it is, seated at 500 meters over there, over to the right at so-called 3 o'clock at 90 degrees. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to rotate and I'm going to roll to the right. I'll bring it across the central point and I'll drop it into the bed of the radar at generally 9 o'clock 270. So you can roll the craft into the radar bed as well, pivoting and rolling by pitching and rolling. All right, super critical. Go ahead and get them general centristic again. What are we at? We are at 500 meters. So if I get that craft into line and I boost, I'm going to more than likely fall at 300 meters out. That was wrong because remember it's 2000, so I'll keep that mistaken for the video because you got to be aware that it's not that. I was totally wrong. All right. And what happens is now we'll go ahead and we'll do any maneuvers to get the craft back on visualization, and we'll make a correction in regards to the mistake because we don't know. We don't know. We haven't built it into memory. It's not that. It's 2.00 kilometers. All right. So let's go ahead and back out. Back up a little bit here, and we'll get generally close to that area. Okay, good enough. Let's bottom it out. All right, so here it is. If we boost, we should come up, very close to the craft. That's for sure. Check it out. A little navigational aspect in regards to it. Okay, not too bad. And we'll back up a little bit. And I just want to show the so-called field of view. We'll pull up hard points. In this case, I only have mining lasers. I'm using the mining training scenario for this. And what happens is you can see, and this is a representation to the cone on the radar that represents our field of view. It doesn't necessarily mean our entire field of view. It actually more relates to the so-called borderlines of the hard points that are deployed right here, in which I have a primary and a secondary. Nothing's in secondary, but those border foundations that appear when hard points are actually deployed represent the cone, because as I strafe to the right, you can see if I still have a vantage on that craft, but they are outside the cone of view. When I bring them close to the border of what would be the secondary weapon, you can see they're more true to heart within the field of view, the cone representation on the radar. And this is really critical to understand, especially when using self-locking weapons such as gimbaled weapons and things like that. Not necessarily like heat seekers and things you got to wait for the gauge to lock onto, but more so gimbaled weapons, is that you will have auto-locking, and it's actually weapons that auto-lock, such as I believe pulse lasers and things. They will actually have their greatest ability to lock on when you have the target dead center. But when you are offset but you're still within the cone and the field of view, there is good auto locking as well, and you have to be aware of that. So I wanted to show that as well. And that's pretty much going to be it, other than going into so-called scenarios that we can try to put these things to use. When you use these things in regards to watching videos, it's really to use the galaxy as your friend, because in most videos that you'll look at when trying to see how things were done, such as incursions or whatever it may be, or just in general, a lot of times the commander is not giving the instructions on actually the maneuvers that are being incorporated within the execution. And you could easily use the galaxy as your friend in relation to it. So let's go ahead and boost out a little bit here into the galaxy, and primarily the stars, and then anything that comes into the field of view can be utilized as well. So what happens is, in this case right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put everything. I'm going to put a lot of PIP into my engines, which I'm using a 141 PIP. I'm going to increase my speed to the to the best maneuverability of the craft. Now once I start forward momentum here, you can see that we have a break in the atmosphere, meaning that you can see these lines that are coming at us right here, and it's actually what I consider in my terminology is breaking the atmosphere. So actually if I was going in reverse, those lines would be going in the opposite direction. So that's one relative point. The next thing is whenever we are pitching up, the stars are going to cascade down from top to bottom. Whenever we are pitching down, the stars are going to cascade from bottom to top. Whenever we are rolling, if I roll to the left, it's going to be a counterclockwise spiral. And if I roll to the right, it's going to be a clockwise spiral. Okay? If I vertical thrust ascending upwards, what happens is that break line is actually going to change, and which it's going to have a different foundation. It's now producing itself from top to bottom diagonally across the plane of view. And when I come to a rest and I reverse that and begin descending downward thrust, vertical thrusting downwards, descending, you can see how the wake is, and the brake I should say, the wake is behind us, is actually cascading from the bottom diagonally across the top. Okay? And if I was going to strafe, which is yaw, and I don't like to use horizontal thrusting, I like yaw instead. What happens is when I yaw to the right or strafe to the right, the stars will cascade from right to left, and when I yaw to the left, strafe to the left, the stars will cascade from left to right. Okay? It's really good to understand that, because when you're watching videos, you can actually understand the maneuvers that are being made based on the utilization of the galaxy. There is no doubt about it. Now when it comes to strafing, and the reason why I prefer strafing, or I use strafing, and I love strafing, is that it makes your target very hard to hit. Even if they're using gimbaled weapons, if you have a strafing maneuver continuously going on, and also in a case if you want to make adjustments and options for so-called horizontal thrusting, you have a real good chance of having the enemy miss you because of the fallout of the weapon, even if it's a gimbaled weapon, self-locking weapon. So it's really critical to understand that. There is no doubt about that fact. With that information in place, I believe I covered everything I wanted right now, and the only thing is to try to put some things to use in actual true engagements. With that information in place, stand by. Okay, here it is. Let's try to take the information that we've already shown, which is foundational, and put it to use, as well as additional things also. We'll use skirmish in the challenge scenarios, and we'll begin. Always pay attention to the in-game tips that are being given. And the first section here, I'm not even really going to get into the engagement. I just want to explain certain things. A key factor in this game right here, especially when it comes to combat, is your quick reaction time. You want to be able to do things very quickly. So let's look at quick aspects in relation to it. First thing is, in order to immediately you can initiate your hard points by pressing a trigger button. That's automatically going to pull up hard points, so that's really nice and quick. The next thing is PIP distribution. A lot of times you'll find, because your systems are up and running fine, that you want to devote more PIP to engines and weapons in regards to your engagement. If in fact it is like that, a real good procedure that I like to do initially off the first triggering of it is by activating a 033 scenario. So all I would need to do, using a DualShock controller on a PlayStation system, my D-pad controls my PIP, is I would go up twice, right twice, and that will give me a 033 PIP distribution. I could do that without even looking at it. Now should I become damaged in any way, I can immediately devote PIP back to system just by resetting it, and then if I want additional, I would just head over to the left and throw an additional one into systems. Funny thing is about a PlayStation system is when I do that, if you look at the PIP, it almost appears that I have a so-called 3 1.5 1.5. And the only reason why I have to say that is because icons in the engines and weapons are solid only in one aspect of it. The two other additional icons that appear almost be dim in color, and I would relate it to that. It's the only thing I can do. So if I wanted a different configuration starting from what you'd be begin with immediately, which is resetting. Say I want a 042. All I would do is I would go up twice, right twice, and up again once. If I wanted a 024, I would go up twice, over twice, and one more over, which is to the right. And so I have an equal I have a distributing routine there that makes it very quick to use for reaction time. So I wanted to mention that. Next thing we want to look at is the radar. See how the radar is freaking out. The reason being is that those ships have weak heat signatures involved, so my radar's having a hard time detecting where they are, and because of that I would have to do the best I can to visually look for the wake that's being emitted by the crafts in order for me to even go any further. And if I don't see them shortly, I would just re-begin. I believe it. There they go. So here it is. I'm going to boost into that area. There they go. And you can see that here they are. And they actually have hard points already deployed because of their icon indicator. And that's important. The next thing, because they'll be quicker to engage. They'll be quicker to react upon the engagement that I am going to initiate, because they're neutral targets right now. So I'll go ahead and lock onto one so I don't lose one here. And then I want to explain the next thing. As I am going into this to try to get, and use the information feed and show it in true play, I want to mention the fact that I'm always usually using a pitch foundation. Primarily upwards, their trajectory of attack is usually coming from the high position. And I will, when I am narrating, I'm going to be specifically focusing on the strafing maneuver that I'm using. I don't have horizontal thrusting. I am primarily strafing. And I'm going to be doing a lot of strafing, and the primary reason is it's going to make my ship harder to lock onto in relation to enemy fire. Okay. Now, another thing that you'll see that I'm going to be doing here, based on the information that we've achieved in regards to understanding the relativity of distance via the line configuration that appears, is that when I get that line to form, generally at what I want to consider a 50-meter scenario, I want to release tension on my button configuration. Whether it be the fact that I'm pitching and strafing or whatever it may be, I want to release as many of the tension buttons and controllers that I'm initiating. And the reason why I want to do that is it is automatically going to kick my ship into a greater maneuverability control, and it is also going to kick my weapon locking activation in play quicker. Okay, so as I'm trying to pull them into my field of view, when I get that line configuration to be at what I consider generally a 50-meter relativity, I want to release and engage. All right, try to lock them in my sight, of course, but I want to begin to free my ship up for engagement, whether it be in the maneuverability aspect of it or the weapon firing aspect of it. Okay. There's just no doubt about that. So let's go ahead and restart. Stand by. Another informational tip that we could look at as we're going along here. So once we get into the area, I'm going to immediately press the trigger button. I'm going to immediately engage some speed. I'm going to immediately lock a target, and I am going to immediately distribute additional PIP to systems. I'm going to boost to try to get close to these three, and then I'm going to determine which one I like best. I like this guy best, so I'm going to lock onto that one instead. And when I become within a good range, I'm going to begin engaging. So I like to try to get this one, probably within maybe 300, and reduce my speed to the greatest maneuverability, begin engaging and hit them. Once you hit them, they're immediately going to become more evasive. They may actually get a little aggressive and try to form themselves into a strafe run directly at you. And then you would just react. I'm going to strafe to the left. You can see I'm pitching up, drop him back, release, hit him again, okay? And try to use everything that you can as far as engagement. Okay, pass me to the right. He's gone already. I'll trip another indicator on a hostile target. Try to bring him in. I'm going to release because I got within my line configuration. I'm going to reestablish my strafe, release again, within that line configuration and just start hitting them. Now, even though I'm firing multi-cannons and the shields are up, which are considered a waste, I have so much multi-cannon ammunition, I don't really care. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to release so that I can get weapon locking quicker in that line configuration, and just try to hit them as best as I could. My multi-cannons are out, so I want to still use my laser. I'm going to be strafing, as you can see right there, until I get that line to drop down close, release, try to get a good shift on my maneuverability, hold it again, still strafing, release, hit him. Okay, pass me to the right, so I'm going to strafe to the right. You can see I'm pitching up. Hate to say all of these things. I'm going to release, see if I can catch him. All right, that was a good release point. That allowed me to come up on a good angle on that guy right there. And I'm going to try to just keep on hitting him, all right? Just try to hit him with everything I got. Switch it over to the next target. I'm going to start to bleed it out. I'm going to keep a strafe maneuver. Release, see if I can get a lock. Pass me, strafe again. Pitching up, as you can see. Automatic pitch. I'm going to release, hit. And now, just because I hit him with the lasers, he's going to become slightly more evasive. Now, the next thing is he boosted out. That goes really to my advantage. Whenever you hear that boost, you're actually going to have a good amount of time to recalibrate and readjust your positioning. All right, release, hit him. I'm on him good. He's got no chance, and I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him right here. Okay, so I'm looking at, just wanted to look at my hull integrity. Took my mind off that for a second. That actually allowed him to survive. Well, I left that one with 94% hull integrity remaining. Continue. Okay, in-game tip. Check it out. Now, I haven't even played the game, man. All I've done is training and learning about it. That's the way I am. I am technical. I am tech. Anyway, if I'm going to lock the target so I don't lose him. And I just want to show something here. I'm activating my panel. You can see right there on Tech Commander, I'm harmless 0000. Okay. Anyway, let's get some speed right here. Get a boost. Get some systems in there. PIP. Close in. And continue. So let's see what we can do. Like I said, that release point is super critical. And I love using the 50-degree line foundation that we've learned. Okay. There it is. I'll come around. I'd like to get probably, 400 area. And here it is. I'm going to begin. Whoop. Overshot. That's because I didn't deploy my hard points. Okay, anyway, we're going along here. So they're still neutral, man. I could take my time in positioning and everything. So here it is. I want my maximum control maneuverability in the sweet spot. I want to get a little bit closer. I was close enough already, actually. And now we go. All right. So here it is. I'm going to try to hold them in my sight. These guys right here, I'm not going to worry about strafing too much because I want to inflict as much damage by being stationary, even though I got forward velocity. Pass me on the left, so I'm going to strafe to the left. Pitch is already involved. Release. Hit him again. All right. Now, as I'm hitting them, multi-cannons as well. Try to get some damage. Pass me on the right, I'll strafe to the right. Try to get that 4-point release. Hit him again. Get another strafe to the right. Release. Think he's dead. Get the next guy. Automatic strafe maneuver involved there. Automatically strafing. Do a little roll. Usually when you kick in a little roll, it's just a slight amount of roll. Slight amount to put him into a table bed. Okay, pass me straight to the left, right, excuse me. Try to drop him down, release, hit him again. Pass me to the left, so I'll straight to the left. Get that line down, release, hit. Throw some multi-cannons. He was within a close range, so I might as well just hold my freestyle flying here, trying to maneuver him into my line. That boost helped me for recalibration. There's no doubt about that. Appreciate it. Straight to the right. Try to get him to drop. Release. Turn. Okay. Sometimes you might want to remain on the release if you feel that you're lining them up quickly. If they're moving very slowly, you usually go and coincide with one another. So you want to just hold that strafe involved. Got that guy, switch to the next target. Okay, I'll do a couple of little rolls, see if I might shake them in place a little bit quicker, and then we'll try to get that target to drop down. Sometimes they can give you a tremendous amount of hard time. All right, release, follow them, freestyle. I'm going to do a little hook on that one. I'm going to definitely straight there because of the slow motion of the line foundation, showing that we were going coincide, release, hit. Okay, I got him in trouble now. Yeah, he's in trouble. Left that one with 89% hull integrity. Try for another one. The Super Cruise Assist. Alright, let's get quick action here. Deploy the hard points, increase speed, throw one into systems, lock a target, boost, follow the wake. Choose which one you like. I'll stay on this guy. Close in, accelerate speed, bring it back to the sweep point, maneuverability once I get close enough, and I'll begin. Okay, so here it is, engagement. Okay, try to follow him. Vertical thrusting I used a little bit there, which I don't really use too much. And I'm going to try to keep on hitting those beams on his shields right there. Knock the shields down. I got him in a good freestyle move here where I could actually maintain control, decrease speed there. Okay, and switch target. I got him. Okay, increase my speed back to good momentum here. And try to drop that guy within. Release. Couldn't catch him. Grab it back as far as strafe is concerned. Swing him around, release, hit him, get more aggressive, evasive action. A strafe maneuver here, moving quickly so I could release. See that? I could release because I was moving very quickly on that target. In the case right there, always watch the speed of the line. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit him again. I'm going to swing out, slip out a little bit, get a strafe maneuver in, try to swing, roll a little bit. See if I could shake him into the field of view. Okay, so keep a strafe maneuver going here, bleeding out to the side, release, hit him. Okay, got some hits. He passed me on the left. I'm going to strafe to the left, pitching up, of course. See if I can get him to drop down. Release, hit him again. Okay, I'm going to follow him there, freestyle, because I had a good eye on him in my field of view, doing whatever maneuver I feel is right within that scenario at hand. So I ran out of ammunition, unfortunately. Go ahead and I'll strafe to the right, pitching up, getting the drop, release, hit him again. Got him, go to the next guy, swing around. A median strafe is involved in that pitch, no matter where I was, even if I didn't get a chance to even look, I want a strafe maneuver involved. So here it is, I'm going to release, came up pretty good, I'm going to hit him. Right, immediately he wants to be more evasive on this situation. Almost held him in the field of view. He's moving a little quickly. I'll freestyle it. I'm going to hit him again. I'm going to get some multi-cannons in. I don't care because I have so much. It does interfere with my reload foundation, I got to admit that. But meaning that when I really need those multi-cannons, I might run out of them and have a harder time. I understand that. And I'm going to swing around and I'm going to release and I'm going to hit and see what we can do. He's down 90%, I believe. Still hull integrity, one more. Okay, last one here. This is about sensors. And I pretty much got information in related to our subjects covered. Not bad, not too bad. I mean, I've left this with 100% hull integrity. A little bit in systems. I have done that. I could even use my secondary boots, because usually you get two before you can't do it for a while because of the lack of PIP in engines. But I definitely want more in systems because of the fact of the engagement, meaning that I'm definitely going to have to take bombardment here from these wingmen, and I just want to be ready. I just want to be ready for that. So shouldn't have hit that guy right like that. That was a mistake, unfortunately. And he passed me, but he's close, so I want to see how that line is moving. If that line is moving quickly, then I just want to freestyle my way into lining that target. Just like that. If that line is going to move quickly towards my field of view, I just want to maintain that maneuver. If I find it's moving slowly, it's not necessarily I'm going to break the maneuver, but what I'm going to do, I reset my PIP there accidentally. More the systems I want. Is I am going to hold it. I'm just going to hold it. See, as long as I'm holding it, I'm going to be hard to hit on the strafe, and then I'll release. I got to hit. That's going to help. It's going to make him slightly evasive. I'm going to hit him again. Okay, he's going to pass me on the right, so I'm going to pitch up and strafe to the right. Even if he swings to the left like he did right there, or the right I should say, I'd maneuver to the left. I'm going to hold that maneuver. I'm going to just hold that maneuver until I could possibly pull him in. Okay, release, hit. Okay, I see him. That might be maneuverable, so I'm in a little vertical thrust there. But no, I don't like it, so immediately I got to apply a strafe again, so that I could avoid taking, additional damage. Let's go ahead and hit this guy pretty hard right here, taking damage from his wingman. But we'll try that. We'll try to swing him in, release, hit. He's gone. Get the next guy. You can see I definitely incurred more damage here. But I am leaving at least above 80% hull integrity. Like I said, sometimes in the lucky scenarios I've left at 100, but other times in unlucky scenarios I've left and got destroyed. I've left by dying. Because of the fact that I just couldn't shake them, man. I'm not really sure of the best way to shake them when they're on you. It might be a quarter roll maneuver. Might be a good shaking effect. Might be a good shaking effect for positioning. %, Galnet. Deploy hard points, increase speed. I'm going to go to a 4-1-1 on this one here, trying to protect myself even more. And it will cause my weapons to generate slowly, but I'm going to take a chance, see what I can get. So I'm going to try to follow this guy. Okay, vertical thrust there too as well, as a matter of fact. And whenever you break contact with your weapons, you want to release and relock. Sure. Okay, pass me generally close to the left, so I'll strafe to the left. Release. Get some hits on this guy. Pass me to the right, so I'll strafe to the right. Release. Hit. Knock the shields out. Multi-cannons. Trying to hold my maneuverability on the target. Switch to the next. I like a half roll maneuver to try to shake them into the field of view. Release. Again, I'll do a strafe maneuver to the left in this case. Release, hit him. Okay, I'm going to do a strafe maneuver to the right. A little bit of a half roll, see if I could shake him in place. Hit him again. Got a hit. Strafe to the left in this case right here. Hold that strafe to the left. Good alignment. Good alignment there. My beams are recharging, so I'm going to throw multi-cannons anyway, just to keep him more evasive. Still regenerating. Drag. That's what happens. Anyway, can I get him? The shields almost went down with the utilization slightly of multi-cannons. Actually kept firing them accidentally right there. See if we can get him to drop in. Okay, release, hit him. Got him. Go to the next guy. Let's see if we can get him into play. A hit would be great because I could get him to be more evasive. Keep the strafe maneuver going. Oh, that boost helped me, so now I could release and just try to align. Hit him. Oof. Just missed him. Okay, see if we can get him. Drop in. I can get a hit on him. Oh, he's not even targeted. I released the target, my mistake. And we'll try again. See if we can get lucky here. If I can get him to drop in. Release. Hit him. Okay, try to hold him. Hit him. Okay, swing. Get a straight maneuver. Try to hold him. Don't waste your weapons in that case right there. That boost that he applied to help me. My weapons. They depleted out. Shields are slightly up, so those multi-cannons aren't really doing their job. Yeah, I'm trying though. Come on, weapons. Don't hit me. That's a trick. Anyway, I finished with 100%, man. Can't do any better. Cool. Okay, that's going to seal the deal here in regards to this video related to utilization of radar and the foundation surrounding it, as well as maneuvers and utilization of radar actually in combat. Hopefully these tips and factual information can be put to use in regards to gameplay. And with that information in place, this is Tech number 913960. I'm out of here.